Hello, and welcome to the Homeschool Conversations Africa podcast. Here, we discuss homeschooling from the African perspective and the unique challenges that come with it.
If you're considering homeschooling, we hope to inspire you as you take this bold step. If you're already a homeschooler, we're here to share encouragement for this wonderful journey we're on to educate our children in the best way we can. We are your hosts, Dzifa and
Charissa Neti Mabel.
Let's dive right into today's conversation.
Previously on Homeschool Conversations Africa.
Hello, dear listeners, and Happy New Year. We're excited to be back with you this new year, 2022, on Homeschool Conversations Africa.
Today, we are going to kick off our first episode of Season 2 with a conversation about organizing your homeschool in terms of organizing your space and organizing your curriculum and your mind to face the new school year. So we hope that you enjoyed this episode.
It's the beginning of the calendar year, and so it's a good time to reflect, even if you're halfway through or if you're beginning. Well, that's wonderful. So it's a good time to do an assessment of what you've done so far, figure out what's working, what's not working, try to make adjustments to make sure that things are moving along smoothly and your children are having the best experience that you can give them. So for us, where do I start? So I guess I'm going to walk through this space and I'm going to talk a lot, but this is for the benefit of those who may just be beginning or just trying to give lots of different examples for people so that people can have some options to choose from. So thinking through our space, we've done all kinds of things. Let me give a bit of history. So when we first began homeschooling, we were in some temporary housing, getting ready to move into a house that we were building. And so it was a small space for us. It was a 2-bedroom place and we had a little dining room. And so that's where we started homeschooling. And so it was all of us around this dining table. One part of the table was even against the wall. So it's not like we had that much space. But at that time, not everybody was doing serious school anyway. But we had a wonderful backyard, a nice big backyard. And so we could do that. What I find is that your needs dictate the kind of space that you should try to have. That's what tends to happen. And yes, we may all wish for more space a lot of the time, but it may not happen. So your needs kind of
sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that's why organizing is so important, because sometimes you may have some things that you're storing in a certain way that is using up more space than it needs to. So once you're able to organize them well, you may find that you actually have more space than you previously thought.
You did, yeah, that's very true. Yes, so we moved from that. I think even when we moved, then we had individual desks, but they were in our living area. I just had them in different corners. And we also used our living area a lot because there are things that we do together, like circle time. And there are some subjects that we were doing together, history and stuff. And so for those, it was easy to just get everybody from their corner. We all just sit in the living room on the rug, and then we have that particular subject. So that's another thing we've done. And then we moved on to where now, by God's grace, we have enough space to be able to have a homeschool room. We decided to use a guest room, the dedicated guest room in our home as a school room, because we needed that more on a daily basis. And then there was another smaller room which we could turn into a guest room. And so that's what we are doing now. So when it comes to seating areas, that's what we do. Now, if you're considering where to have school, like I said, if you don't have the space, then it's most likely going to be around your dining room table or maybe some other table that you have in your home. But you should think about things like your children's, should I call it personalities, when you're making these decisions. Some children have a hard time focusing more than others. And for such kids, if you put them around a table, they might be distracted a lot. You know, if everybody's not quiet at all times working, I've seen this happen. And so if you have a child like that, you might want to consider finding a little corner for them in order for them to be productive. My kids love to talk to each other. Oh my goodness. But I do love us to be together too. A lot of the time I've tried to keep us together doing school, like in the same space. And maybe that's also because of my own needs. I don't want to be walking all around, going from this place to the other place, trying to check on everybody. I want to see everybody at the same time and be able to help everybody at the same time. But then maybe if you have kids who are growing older, who are more independent, like my older daughter is now, who are managing themselves for the most part, then they would be able to sit on their own somewhere, because sometimes she says the younger ones are disturbing her, or if we're working on a subject where we have to do a lot of talking, then that may be distracting to her. So these are some of the things that you might want to consider when you're thinking about. Another thing you can consider is what kind of lighting they have, or what view do they have. Like, should I put this child's desk by a window so that they can see outside? If we have some lovely trees outside, flowers, grass, that's always nice. Sometimes you may have birds come and perch and they can look at that. So that's a good thing. Or if you have a distracting view where maybe you just see people going by on the road and you think that's going to be more problematic, then you probably want to move your desk and turn it in such a way that it's not facing that area. So I think we have to be intentional about some of these things, because all of these little things affect what goes on in our day and the amount of work that we are able to get done or not. Now, in terms of organizing books, that's the next big thing that I can think of. So before I go on to that, so what I have currently, I think I'll put a picture on Instagram and Facebook pages. Yes, in terms of the desk, I got a carpenter to he just took a 4x8 board. You know, like you have these MDF or HDF boards. I think we cut it into two. I wanted the whole length because I have 4 kids, so I was trying to give everybody about 2 feet of working space. It was one long table, and we used some, I'm not sure what to call them, brackets. We put strong brackets underneath them, but these brackets fold. And I did this because in the events that we ever had to use this schoolroom as an extra bedroom, which has happened before when we've had a lot of guests, I'm able to just kind of fold that table down and it's out of the way, and then we can be able to make space for sleeping. So that table has worked nicely. They're still all around the same table, but I think because they're not facing each other and they have to face the wall, maybe it reduces the amount of talking or distraction that goes on a bit, as opposed to when they're just looking in each other's faces. Yes. So this is for my particular situation. This is what I've found is working. It's working better than when we are facing each other. So, and in terms of use of space, it works nicely for us. And the wall above them, I put things like I have 100 charts. I have their cursive charts there, and I keep changing the things. Their schedules are on that wall, and any other things that are necessary that they may need to refer to often. I put on that wall. I don't have it to where I would love to have it yet. I don't like putting things directly on walls. And so I've been thinking of solutions. If you guys have ideas, please share it on your on the pages for me. And I was thinking of putting maybe a long wooden piece of wood that you can easily like tuck things into and take out, with tuck pins.
Yeah. What we are doing is I have Kara's old like play mats, which are made of foam. So that's just hanging like on top of the shelving that I mentioned. And then I use push pins to like put like alphabets and numbers and things and pictures. But I am looking for a solution for that because I feel like the push pins are not too safe for her. So right now it's out of her reach, but it still gives me nightmares a bit.
And that would be colorful too. And that's an awesome idea, I think. Is there maybe you could use something else other than push pins to put the things up? But that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Yes, and so that's what we have with our desk situation right now. I have my own desk, which is across from there, and it's big enough so that I can take one child next to me at a time. So if I have to help somebody, if I have to bring somebody over to my desk and explain things to them or teach them something, then they are able to come into that second chair and I do that. And then after that, they can return to their own workspace. There's also a comfortable little sofa in here. And then we have a little rug on the floor as well. So when we have circle time, we can sit there as well. A lot of the time when the children have to do reading for literature and other things, sometimes they get tired sitting upright. Yes. At first, I used to be very strict about that. But over time, you change over time. Just forget it. It's not that big a deal. So long as you're getting your work done. That's fine. Yes. So they can relax on the and do their work. Sometimes they even want to move to the rag. It's not my favorite place because it can affect handwriting a bit. But sometimes I let it slide because I understand that sitting up
can get tired from sitting.
When it comes to organizing our curriculum or our books, what I've tried to do is at the beginning of the year, so that was before September, I went through all our books. We had received our new books. I know the ones that we had used the previous year that we will not use again. Some of them are being used by maybe the next child. And so we keep those. So when I sort the books into that group, I had a pile for giveaway, for selling, for putting away for the future, because I do have 4 kids, and so there are things that all 4 of them are going to go through, and so I have to keep. But sometimes because of the spacing, their ages, I have to keep it for maybe 2 years before the next child gets to it. And so for those kinds of things, I have in tubs and boxes, and they are stored way up high. Our schoolroom has a closet, a generous closet space. And so that's pretty much what we use as our shelving, our bookshelves, our storage, everything. And so those books are way up high. We don't need them often. I keep out some books though, things like science books, because you can always be learning from those. And so I keep those, and I actually don't keep them here necessarily. I keep them with our other books. We'll have a whole episode on how to organize your home library later, and I can get more into detail about that. But I keep those up so that the kids can always have access to them to read and just keep learning at their own leisure time. But then when it comes to the books we are using currently, so used books away, future books away, the ones we are giving away, we do that. I try to put them on sale or give away those I have to give away. And then for the curriculum that we are using currently, I've organized it by child. So each child has their shelf. I find that this works for me. There's another way that you can do this. You can do this by subject. I've seen people do that as well. So here's our math area, here's our language arts area, here's our history, and books are organized that way. That also works. For us, I found that having it by child works because it also helps with keeping track. Like, who left this book here? Like, I know this book came off your shelf. If I find this book laying around somewhere, you're the one responsible for it. So that helps me as well. So it's they all have their books, and like I said earlier, so my youngest is the shortest. So I try to give him a low shelf so that he can be able to reach his books, and I don't have to help him. And that's how it goes. And so the highest shelf belongs to the oldest one, who happens to be the tallest too. And let me think, what else have we done? There are some subjects that we do together, or a couple of kids do together. For those books, I just put it on whoever's shelf there's space. So if there are three of them doing that subject together and there was space on one shelf, I just put it there because I know it doesn't matter. That person pulls it and brings it, and then we use it, and then afterward it goes back. I know people do things like color coding. The books, people even cover the books, like each book with what do you call it? I don't know, wrapping paper, some paper of a sort. So we know that every time I see a green book, I know it belongs to this child, blue belongs to this child. And they not only do that with books, they do it with all kinds of things. So you can do as much, or as little as you want. Just think about what, yes, what works for you, what helps your school day to keep going and prevent you from having too many unnecessary breaks and pauses along the way. If you don't have shelves, if you don't have shelving, you can, and let's say you do school at your dining table, and so you don't have the space to have a permanent shelf. The shelves are always nice, but if not, you can use baskets or bins. I know these are always some people
using rolling carts as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. The rolling carts, if you can find them, I'm sure if you go on Jumia or if you go into some of your neighborhood department shops like,
I've seen some at China Mall in Ghana.
Melcom, Sahad in Nigeria. I'm not sure about other places, but Jumia is online. A lot of us can find things on there. So that's one way. People give each child a bin. I know I've done this before, or a crate. Even the crates that we use for, the glass mineral, we call them minerals or soda bottles. Those crates will serve well for storing homeschool books. So you can put books in them, you can stand them upright in them, and then you can even put other supplies that a child needs. So then each child has their own little crate or bin, and they know when it's time for school, I bring it here. Now I know we'll be thinking about weight, right? And so a cool little hack you can do if you're the DIY type is to find a way to put wheels underneath those things. Yes. And then that way it's easy. Or people just store it in a corner in the dining area. We've done that before. So in one corner, we just stack these bins or crates. And when it's time for school, you can just get it down. Everybody's crate sits by them or sits along the wall, and then they can keep going back and forth and getting things from it. So when it comes to storing books, I think that that's what we do. One more thing. We have a lot of read aloud storybooks that we have to read. Some of them are part of our curriculum or books that we want to read. So let's say Christmas just went by, right? I pulled out all the Christmas books that we have. I put some in the living room, but I also have a little basket in the schoolroom. There are different ways that you can do this, but I try to display some books or put them in there in such a way that the kids can kind of see the cover. I find that it helps because they are attracted to that display, and then it makes them want to pick a book and read. So even though some of them are required reading, we do that, but sometimes it's just good to place their read aloud. Memorial Press, because we use their curriculum, they offer, as part of the curriculum for the lower grades, there's a read aloud every week, a book that they're supposed to be reading. So on Sunday, I'll pull out those books for the kids, each child, and put it in their basket again, so that's easily accessible to them. And it's more likely that they'll pick it up and read it. I don't insist on it, but I make it available because I know they also want to read their own things. They are always picking up something. So long as you are reading, I'm fine. And so that's one thing you can do. I've seen other people do the cool, I'm not sure what it's called. It's a display where you see each book, the cover of each book. You know, like when you enter a bookshelf.
I want to do myself.
I want to do that too. It looks so cool. I saw Adeshola at Raisin ID.
Has
on
a couple
Instagram.
of shows like that as well.
Yes, he recently did that for a kid, and I thought that's so cool because I feel like, you know, when the books that are just on a shelf stacked that way, they may not see, but when they see that picture, that cover, it's hard for them not to come and pick it up and try to read it. So that's a really neat way to display books. The final thing I want to talk about when it comes to books is what to do about used homeschool books. What I mean by that, it's not the textbooks which you may be able to reuse or resell, but the work that your kids have done, like if you had them taking notes in a notebook, or if you had them filling out a workbook, over time, that becomes a whole lot of books. And we don't have an endless amount of space in storing books. And the truth of the matter is, you know, do you go back to them? You refer to them? I know different people do different things. I've seen where if people use worksheets or sheets, they can kind of keep one notebook where they keep some work that's very special to the child, some project they did. So you can have a file or folder system and do that. So that way you can get rid of the others at the end of the year, or some people keep books for a year and then after that they get rid of it. I think I've kept books for 2 years, but I'm running out of space now. So I think I keep them for 2 years and then I get rid of them. But one thing I did in the past, which I think I'll come back to, is taking pictures, like just to be able to keep track of the child's work. Of course, we have our whole program, so we'll be able to say, this is what we did in 3rd grade and this is what we studied in 2nd grade. But we can take a few pictures. Maybe for the math book, I take 5 pictures or 10 pictures, sample pages, you know, and just digitize that and store that away. Then that way I'm able to get rid of the book. But of course, if there are special things that the child has done, special artwork and things, we can have a whole folder where we keep that, and that's just your precious little things. If your child has some work that's really dear to their heart, maybe a piece of some artwork that they did, or it was a quiz that they felt they did very well on and they want to keep, whatever it is, you can dedicate a binder to that, and with some sheet protectors, and then you can put that work in. Just make sure that once that thing gets full, if you don't want to have 10 of those things by the time you realize, whenever there's a new one coming in, consider which one you're going to let go of. You know,
maybe digitize,
just like you do in your home, so that you. Yes, exactly. So, I think I've touched on all the different things we do to help us organize our curriculum or the books that we have. Yeah.
Nice.
So, Charissa,
lots of good ideas.
Do you have anything to add?
I mean, this is our first official year, so not much to add. Maybe at the end of the year, I'll have more tips.
We'll have to wrap up here, but we will continue this conversation in our next episode, so do join us then. Thank you for listening to the Homeschool Conversations Africa podcast.